Okay, what do you reckon? What do you expect to be in the final exam? What questions or what topics do you think will be there? Which topics do you expect to be in the final exam? While waiting for others, we can do this bit. Finalde ne olur sizce? I guess nothing then. Type 1 if you're here so that we can start. All right. We are about 30 people here, more incoming, but we shall start. Right. So, okay, Hande, you can try a different speaker, or you could try your headphones. Maybe that should do it. Maybe tell your problem in the Telegram group. Maybe the guys from the computer engineering department could help you with that. All right. So, we were talking about disciplinary investigations in the previous lesson, and those might be stemming from academic misconduct. It's a term used to describe cheating in education, such as stealing others' works or ideas. Okay, citation. Clarity is the quality of being clear and easily understood. Paraphrase, the presentation of others' ideas in your own words. Referenceless, it. Synonym, it. Okay, so have you heard about turn it in? Okay, what about others? So it's a platform like this. University professors use this one. And some professors want their students to turn in their homework from here so that they can see how mm, like which parts of their essay or works are taken from somewhere else. They are trying to look at the similarity reports. Of course, if you have committed plagiarism, it might show it there. So I'm looking for an example to show you because I have my friend's papers there as well. So give me a second to show you. No, I can't because they are all sensitive information. Um, Let me search like this. So this is what professors see. So it shows where some of the sentences have been taken from, and it shows whether a sentence has not been cited or quoted. And it also shows, now it shows the AI writing percentage. How many, um, how much of the essay, like the whole essay, is AI generated or not? It looks at that. However, the filters and the settings could be easily changed. But generally, if you have three or five consecutive words that are found on the internet in other sources, the system will flag it as similarity. Of course, the teachers can change this, but most of the time it's at default, so they don't change it. Sometimes some of them are not aware that something like this is there. For that reason, you should be careful about the number of same consecutive verbs. Arda arda gelen 3 tane aynı kelime varsa ve o başka bir yerde bulunuyorsa problem olabilir. Okay, and it shows the AI similarity. But of course, we cannot just we cannot just only trust this AI writing score here. A teacher needs to look at it for him or herself. So that's how they learn. Of course, there are ways to beat it, and there are other ways to uh, beat the beaten one. But like in the first round, teachers will see those. All right. I've used this in my previous, like at my previous university, in an online final exam. We had an online final exam, and I used it. But it depends on your department, your professor, how strict they are. So, so if you just copy the words of others, you are not doing anything unique with this information. Therefore, you should use your own words as much as possible throughout your paper. So why do we paraphrase? Because we want to give clarity. And the evidence you read will be maybe very academic, professional, and maybe a bit more difficult. And it might be referring more than a single concept while you were working on that single concept. So the remaining part might not be a huge importance to you, to your audience, to your professor. So you use only some part of it and you give it in a clear fashion for your readers and audience. So, expressing ideas in your own words should help simplify the information and make it more accessible to your readers. And you're showing your understanding by paraphrasing. Otherwise, it could just be copying and pasting. But when you read two or three, let's say, similar sources, and when you've gotten some similar outcomes out, like similar notes out of these sources, like in a matrix, you combine them all and you rewrite it again, and it shows your understanding. And if you have difficulty writing more than a few sources in a single sentence, maybe AI could help you with that. When you have your notes, you can share your notes with it and expect it to give you some structures to write your sentences to start with. Next up, we have avoiding plagiarism. Yeah. So you should be really careful about three or five consecutive same words that they might be flagged as plagiarism. Okay. When we find a source on, or when we find information online, we need to paraphrase it. And we also need to provide a citation. Can you give me one example of a citation? And then, of course, we reference the citation in our reference list at the end of our paper. So the place of the citation could change. That's a topic we will focus on more in the next week. However, most of the times we don't use the first name. We use the last name and the year. And if we have the direct quotation, word for word things that we can take, then we also specify the page number. So we have some theoretical information regarding how to paraphrase. However, we'll have an activity together that I will show you different ways of doing a paraphrase, such as changing the word order and structure, changing the parts of the speech, changing the voice, like from active to passive to active, using synonyms, and then maybe using some discourse markers, maybe linking words, and maybe we can reduce the number of words and we could make it less wordy, and then we could specify the concept in it, which we will all see. But on the book, it says we should critically read and understand our source. Of course, we should take notes and categorize the notes. And we shouldn't forget the reference of these notes and write out your own understanding. Check your fair phrase, provide a reference, and of course, use a similarity tool. Text similarity tool. You can search for it and then see whether your paraphrase was successful or not. And then you could use AI detection tool if you have used AI in the process and to see like how much AI it shows. And then in the end, you should provide the reference, um, which you know how to. If we want to show again, so we had Google Scholar and let's say online banking adoption. You could click on site here. There you can have your citation that I showed in the chat box. So you could use a plagiarism checker, just search for it. But students cannot use Turnitin by themselves. So you should search for other plagiarism checkers. Like this, right now, this is a reference in the reference list. And if it is in the text with the surname and year only, then it's a citation. I don't know if I misspelled any of these. And you can use a search engine to self-check. For example, you've written something like this. You copy the whole sentence and search for it online. If the actual source shows up, then you may reconsider your product, your latest product here, and then change a bit more. To help you with the paraphrase, we have a platform too called, I don't know if it still works well. but Quillbot helps you do that. It paraphrases it for you. But of course, you have to be careful and attentive here. If you just copy and paste, it won't be enough because the word choices in your field is very important. So you should select the appropriate word choice here. To show you an example, let's do it. So first I'll paste it here and then do it here like this. Of course, we have the free version here and we do the standard mode. We could do it on academic, we could humanize it. The source is this paraphrase, the source, this for, okay. What you include the source on which the service is based, as you can see, number of. But of course, you have to read more than a single source. You have to categorize your notes, and there you should have a few notes from a few sources that you categorized, and then write it from scratch. But if you could do it this way, it will very much recognizable by your professor because it really shows that every verb has been changed for another. So instead of that, again, we have to read, take notes, categorize, rewrite it again, including all of the notes from different sources so that we can create something unique. So if you can locate the source easily, then it means your paraphrase is too similar to the original. So what to keep? Of course, we need to keep the names, the subject, the topic vocabulary. So for example, a few minutes ago, we talked about, like I've shown you, online banking adoption. So this is a word used in the literature, in the banking literature, for example, of course, when it comes to adopting. And it would be very naive to change like use a synonym for this word because it's now a terminology in the field. For example, we talked about online engagement, how students are engaged in an online class. So engagement is in the literature, it's a terminology, so I cannot change it to attendance. Even though they look similar, they're not the same thing. So we should also be use some certain terminology, and if they are in a consecutive order, it may show up as a similarity. However, um, now it's a professor's job to check which sentences or which verbs have been flagged as plagiarism and do an educated guess on those, whether that was that actually a plagiarism or it was just the use of terminology. So even though a similarity index shows you, I don't know, 25% of similarity, it doesn't mean anything. It can show you 1% or like 99%. It doesn't mean that they are plagiarized or not plagiarized. So a careful, critical lenses are needed. And those critical lenses should be like should be wear by the professor. And it's not up to you. Because as you know, settings could be changed. And also if you copy the whole book here, and put it in a paraphrasing tool, then every word is changed with a synonym, then it could show you a very low number of similarity. But does it mean that this paper was not plagiarized? Actually, it doesn't. But when a critical lenses are at the play and your teacher wears those and read it for him or for herself, then it should be very clear to them whether it was plagiarized or not. Just struck me that there's also AI image generator here. Mm, Let's see if it can generate. Okay. So we can change the structure to do a paraphrasing. So in the original sentence, let's say there's a cause and effect kind of relationship in the sentence. And in the paraphrase, you could turn the tables around and have something like this. But of course, it depends on the sentence. Like you cannot apply the strategy anytime you see a cause and effect sentence. So to give an example, the original one was saying, the extensive use of fossil fuels over the past 50 years has resulted in an increased atmospheric temperature and rising sea levels. So when you paraphrase it, it shows up something like global warming and the rise in sea levels are a result of half a century of over-reliance on fossil fuels. It works for this statement. However, it may not work in every situation. So this is an online class with 400 students. Not bad. Another example would be to switch an idea that is presented as an active statement into a passive form, which we talked about. Alternatively, if the subject is unnecessary or easily identified, then you can simply remove it from the sentence and it could go on something like this. Scientists in the US have discovered proof that smoking does increase the risk of lung cancer. And if you turn it into a passive voice, evidence that proves cases of lung cancer are more common among smokers has been uncovered. I don't think it's a good one. Evidence that proves cases of lung cancer are more common among smokers has been uncovered. I wouldn't like this. The second one, if you remove the subject, recent findings demonstrate that smokers had a much higher chance or likelihood of being diagnosed with lung cancer. Yeah, that covers it. So the idea of paraphrasing sounds quite simple, but the ability to produce high quality paraphrases takes time. This skill does really heavily, sorry about that, guys. This skill does rely heavily on you understanding the idea being presented by the source, as without this understanding, you will attempt to copy as much as possible to ensure the correct meaning is provided. Like as long as you read, understand, and you have an idea of what they are saying, it would be easier for you to paraphrase. So your focus should be on understanding, not on paraphrasing, because then it will fall out. Note taking is essential and should aid in the creation of an original paraphrase by using brief statements written in your own words. You should be able to create something that is visually different from the original. But of course, we should go back and check if the meaning is still there and the meaning has been retained. Okay. Sometimes essential information is removed or extra details are added, resulting in a paraphrase that misrepresents the original idea. And we should avoid this mistake by spending that little extra time checking whether our paraphrase is accurate. If the original source, if the original statement is focusing on, let's say, three concepts, it researched three concepts, but you are only researching one, then you could remove the extra information there and use the one that works for you. And we should avoid from making assumptions or adding extra details when they are not necessary. For example, location of the study in the source that you read might not be very important when you are writing in your own paper. Of course, it depends on the topic. If regional cultural practices, then the place here will of course matter a lot. Okay, any questions so far? All right. Are you ready to get your hands dirty? Okay. Are you on your computers or on your mobile devices? Mobile. Oh. You should be on your computer, guys. Come on. Actually, I'll do it in the commentary mode. Okay, let's go to this link over here. Okay. So, we'll do rephrasing altogether, but we have some instructions before we start. The first off is the first aim is to keep the same meaning. The meaning should not be changed. So we should be really careful about choosing the synonyms and the sentence structure. Do not copy more than three words in a row from the original, except of course technical terms. Keep the APA site. I actually, yeah, not at the end of your send keep the IAP citation if you may keep the APA citation in a place of your choice. Oh, okay. There are some ways to paraphrase. First one is to changing the word order or the structure. So we can reorder the clauses, split and combine sentences. Because instead of going because X and Y, you could go Y because X. So reordering, splitting and combining and merging. Change parts of the speech, sorry. So you could turn a verb into a noun, adjective to noun, etc. So instead of saying decide, you could say make a decision, or you could reduce the number of verbs or make it even higher And you could change the voice, active to passive. Researchers found, and it was found. Synonyms, convincing and persuasive. So I'll give you an example. Instead of online engagement, can I use online attendance? Okay. From your own field, can you give me an example like this? Kendi alanınızdan bir örnek verir misiniz? Can you give me an example from your own field, which has like two very similar concepts, but actually they are different and cannot be used for one another. Speed and velocity. Exactly. And your department is engineering, machine engineering. Coupon, discount. Cool. What else? Good examples, by the way. Rana, Ezgi, Ece. Okay, while waiting for your answers, distance and displacement. Okay. And which department is this? Distance and displacement? Engineering or physical therapy? I don't know. Engineering, gotcha. Anyone anyone from computer engineering? Okay. Virtual reality and mixed reality. Lynn, Ted. It's not very, let's say, terminological here. So we're looking for words from your own department, from your own field that are very similar, but in fact, they're different. Design and sketch, good one. So can you guess Daron's field, guys? Can someone guess his field? Architecture? Oh, we have three different guesses. Fashion, art, graphic. Daron, which one was it? I say architecture. Industrial design. Not bad. I believe we don't have any students from fashion design department because they may not be an English department, English instructor department. Okay, anyway, let's not caught up in this. So I'll give you a sentence and I will be waiting for your phrases. So you can do it by clicking on this and clicking on the comment, and I can see your answer here so that we don't make a mess over here, if you know what I'm saying. everyone starts to do this and do this and go to. Come on now. So there are some options here. Students who use stronger time management practices tend to earn nasıl değiştirebiliriz? Değiştirememelisiniz bunu. So can I just write here? No, okay. Personally, what I do is I go like students with stronger time management practices are more likely mm, to earn we cannot say earn college, like to more likely to get, not like it doesn't say they are more likely, they are more tend they say tend to are likely to get higher grades in college. Students with stronger time management practice are likely to get higher grades. Did you like my rephrase here, guys? Hmm. Right now, this is a good one. Effective time management usually leads to, yeah, by combining usually and leads to, you in a way have stated tend to. Instead of saying tend to, you use usually leads. It doesn't mean always. Higher grades at the university. In university. So right now, college and university. Those might be two different things, depending on the country, of course. But speaking US wise, they're different. In the original sentence, when it says earn higher college grades, it may mean the colleges and the universities. But when we say grades in university, then we exclude grades in college. Did I do a similar mistake? Let me check. I get higher grades in college. Higher college grades. What else? Anybody else? So let me check. Okay. Ian Lee says college students with better time management. Oh, good one. Instead of saying uh, students in college, Ian Lee said college students with better time management skills generally achieve higher academic grades. Good. So let's go to GPT. Yasemin, thank you for your answer. Okay, let's ask. Does this sentence refer to students in college only or at the uni as well? Like college grades, do college grades refer only to Great knowledge. Okay, we asked this to ChatGPT. Let's see what it gives us. Students who engage in more effective time or exercise, like exercise could be made like I want to say physical, but we already do like the exercises in the lesson. So, but it seems a little bit odd to me to see time management exercises. So when we search for time management exercises, do we have this? Time management activities. Actually, there is something like that. I didn't know. Time management exercises. Okay. So let's see how, sorry, seconds. Okay, let's see how many results we have. I can't see. Then it's good. Generally achieve higher grades in college. Who engage. Okay. You kept the structure, right? Yasemin has kept the structure as it is nearly. So being in the US that's basically university undergraduate. So students in this university college, not a separate college. Students university first grades. Mm. All right. So again, it depends on the country, but considering that it's being used in the US, that's basically it means all the university and undergraduate degrees. Okay. Let's do another one. Apparently, my electricity. Okay, apparently. Hmm. In academic writing, quotations should be used selectively rather than as the main method of presenting information. Instead of should be used, we can say need to be used. Quotations in academic writing should need to be used selectively. Do we have a synonym for selectively? Attentively, maybe? Hmm. I do not actually like, I wouldn't use any of the words here and I would keep selectively. Quotations in academic writing need to be used, need to be chose, need to be applied selectively rather instead of as the main source of presenting information, main source of information. Quotations are, Darwin says, quotations are supposed to be used selectively rather than as the main method presented. Um, Darwin, you're right. However, it might be flagged as the similarity because only change you've done here is to put academic writing in the end and use supposed to instead of should be. Suppose and should be. Mm. No worries, you've changed more than a single word. You've done that. But supposed and should be, there is a nuance between these two, right? Supposed are like the expected one. Should be, it's more than an expectancy. It's sorry, it's more than expectation. It's more like a rule here. But of course, it's not like must, lighter version of must. When it comes to academic writing, quotations are supposed to be used selected. Again, you say quotations are supposed to be used instead of primary method. Primary method is also a good use. No worries, Darren. Okay, it's been 45 minutes. Let's take 15 minutes of break so that you can have something to eat. 15 minutes of break altogether, and then we'll continue where we have left off. So, see you in 15.